Do you have a glass of water nearby? Before you take a sip, imagine it has a yellow tinge to it and a funky smell. Or imagine it's a dark, murky color with bits of dirt floating in it. You probably wouldn't want to drink this water, but even if your water is clear, how do you know it's safe to drink? Bacteria, parasites, and heavy metals can affect even the clearest looking water. Okay, you can take a sip now. What's that? You don't want to anymore? I don't blame you. Many of us are connected to a municipal water system and can simply turn on a tap and safe drinking water comes rushing out. However, not everyone has a connection to safe water. 1 in 5 Indigenous communities has a drinking water advisory. This means they may have to boil their water or even have bottled water trucked in.
We are all connected through the water cycle. Clouds carry water long distances. Oceans connect countries and rivers connect cities. Generally, the environment has ways to clean itself. For example, wetlands filter water and take up contaminants. However, with climate change, these connections along the line may be put under stress. For over 10 years, Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation, or ANSN, was one of 20% of Canada's Indigenous communities afflicted with water insecurity. Even though ANSN now has potable water piped in from Stony Plain, the environmental condition of their traditional territory is still being detrimentally affected by poor water quality. Our department, the Wakamne Science and Culture Initiative, is focused on monitoring the impact of climate change on Lac St. Anne and documenting how climate change has affected the connections of ANSN culture with past, present, and future generations. Our work aims to mend the broken connections between ANSN and their water source by 1. Document through interviews how traditional ecological knowledge connects water to culture in the past. 2. Characterize the state of local water in the present using Western scientific methods. And 3. Synergize traditional ecological knowledge with Western science to predict how climate change will affect these water connections in the future.
Indigenous culture centers around storytelling. The origin of the Yizga people of Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation begins with the story of a dream had by a chief's son. He dreamt of a beautiful lake where he heard drums playing. This brought them to the place that they called Wakamne, or God's Lake. Water connects Yizga people to their culture, not just because of this story, but also because clean water is essential to most of the cultural activities that they partake in. Complaints about sick fish, sick animals, and lack of medicines were the starting point of this project. How can Yizga people teach their children how to catch and clean a fish when there are no fish left in the lake? By interviewing Yizga elders, we can connect with the past through water. When they tell stories about their childhoods and describe how they used to live off the land, we can form a baseline of how the environment was in the past. These recorded interviews will exist forever, capturing aspects of Yizga culture in the way it was intended, through storytelling. Our initiative seeks to use these stories to set future priorities for land management to contribute to the retention of Yizga culture.
To characterize the state of Lac St. Anne, we are monitoring environmental factors such as greenhouse gases, temperature, and sunlight. Understanding the connections between these factors builds a picture of how the lake ecosystem is living and breathing today. Many of us think of greenhouse gases as carbon footprints or industrial emissions. However, these gases are also what an ecosystem breathes. Just as our lungs exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide, a lake also absorbs and releases gases. To get a scientific picture of the state of the lake and how it changes through the seasons and into future years, we installed 2 climate monitoring stations and sampled water quality. Understanding how the lake is living and reacts to environmental factors will help predict how the health of the lake ecosystem might be affected in the future by climate change. In addition, this will give ANSN the tools required to assist future climate adaptation strategies.
When we connect the culture and science portions of this initiative, we can make informed decisions about what actions to take today. Indigenous peoples' connection with their traditional territory is at the heart of the disproportionate impact that they endure when it comes to climate change. However, we are all connected by water and therefore all impacted by this issue.